listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. My name's Ben Worthington. In this tutorial, I want to share with you topic ideas and vocabulary related to studying abroad. We're also going to look at pros and cons. We're going to look at a grammar point called inversion, look at some model sentences, and again, model essay and some speaking part 3 questions and model answers. We have to move quickly because there is a lot of information to cover. This, I was thinking before I hit record. On the one hand, having the vocabulary and learning it almost in a natural contextual environment is useful if you're preparing, if you're running out of time to prepare for the exam. In an ideal world, the ideal way to get these ideas and grammar points and vocabulary would be to learn about studying abroad in a more natural way, listening to documentaries, other podcasts, watching videos, and immersing yourself into the topic of studying abroad, probably for about 10 hours, taking notes, writing down sentences, testing, getting feedback, and then maybe after 10 hours you have more ideas and more vocabulary and more collocations, all learnt in a more natural environment. But I understand you're probably not in that situation. That's why you're listening to me. I'm going to just give you an overview. I'm going to give you some points, the pros and cons, the vocabulary, the phrases, the collocations, and these will be in context as well. So it's almost like a shortcut if you are pressed for time. Now, another tool that you can use is the essay checker, where you can get instant feedback, and if you upgrade to the premium one, you get even more detailed feedback. It covers more data points, so you can pinpoint exactly what you need to work on, focus on that instead of, learning the entire English language inside out, which again would be the ideal way to approach IELTS, but we know time is of the essence here. We're probably all time poor, and we're looking for a quick solution to get IELTS out of the way so we can continue and we can move forward, so we can get to Canada, Australia, the UK and whatnot, and fulfill our true potential. Right then, let's jump into it. One last thing before we start. My name is Ben Worthington. I'm from England. I've been teaching IELTS now for a long time, well over 12, 13 years. I decided to specialise in the IELTS exam because I saw some students were just struggling with this. They needed answers out there on the internet. There's lots of information, but it's usually confusing. Tutor A says something, tutor B says something, and this is what led me to the latest evolution of IELTS podcast, and that's our new essay checker, which gives you the tools that you need to pass the exam. We all know smart students in 2023 are using tools, not information, to pass faster. This is, the age of technology. This is, why aren't you using these tools? What's stopping you? Do you prefer just to be reading all day? Or watching YouTube? Getting confused? No, use tools, move forward. Get that band 7. Now, one last thing before we start. When I started out with IELTS, I was struggling. I was frustrated. My essay plans were diabolical. My students were confused, and that's what led me to IELTS podcast. That's what led me to finding out all the professionals, interviewing them, and publishing these tutorials, publishing these interviews, and just helping more students. So if you're frustrated, if you're struggling with the IELTS exam, I know, I've been there. And unlike other IELTS tutors, I've studied in a foreign university. I've learnt a foreign language, and I'm on my I'm on my second foreign language at the moment. So this advice that I share with you, it's not, it's not from another tutorial, it's not from another blog or whatever. It's either been tested on students already and proven, or it's from my own personal experience from having learnt a language in an academic environment. Let's move on. So we're looking at studying abroad. In this tutorial, I'm going to share with you the pros and the cons. We're going to look at a key grammar point, which is inversion. With inversion, the auxiliary verb comes before the subject. This is used to give the sentence more emphasis or dramatic effect. It's especially useful for the speaking as well, but we can also incorporate it with a little bit of modification for the writing. So one of the most common ways to do it would be not only do XYZ, but XYZ. Yeah? Not only do students gain academic knowledge when they study abroad, but they also develop personal skills. This is another one of those foundational sentences you really need to include. It's got a little bit of flair to it. You're exercising the inversion, and after you've written out 3 or 4 sentences using that structure, it's quite easy to master. It's not only do XYZ, but ABC, for example. Next iteration of using inversion. Rarely have I seen such a positive change in students as when they return from studying abroad. Slightly more complex. Now, that sounds like very much like a spoken English sentence. This is what I was saying at the beginning. So if we wanted to transform this and make it more suitable, more formal for an academic essay, how would we do it? We could say something like, rarely do academics see such a positive change. Yeah, I'm changing the meaning now. Rarely have scientists seen such a positive change in the data as when they double check it along with their colleagues, for example. That's quite a big one. Next one. Little did we realize how much studying abroad would transform our lives. Again, little did scientists realize how much pollution originated from cars and gas-powered energy plants, for example. Sentence 4. Never before have the opportunities for studying abroad been so abundant. Again, I think this one you want to write down. It's quite practical, quite easy. Never before has the urgency of climate change ever been so important, for example. Final sentence. Only when you study abroad do you fully appreciate the value of intercultural exchange. If I wanted to adapt this now for the essay, it's like usually, hedging, usually only when students study abroad do they fully appreciate the value of intercultural exchange. Quite straightforward. By the way, if you're not finding it quite straightforward, I understand. It used to infuriate me when my Spanish tutors, we would be doing something incredibly complex like logistics or something, and I was struggling with I was studying Spanish in Murcia, and in Murcia they have this they have a very unique accent, and I was struggling so much, and the tutor was just so flippant, and he made the exact mistake as I did just now. He's like, oh, this is super easy. All you have to do is XYZ. So, sorry, I take it back. It's probably not easy for you if you are, especially if you're just listening. So, I understand. So, what I'm saying is that if you are struggling with this, don't worry. You're not alone. I understand. I've been there, and you can get the full tutorial when you sign up to our newsletter. We'll be sending this out, and you can get the whole description, and you can always just do a search, IELTSPodcast.com, studying abroad, topic ideas, grammar, vocabulary, sample answers, and you'll be able to find the full tutorial and put the text to the audio. Moving forward, the pros and cons regarding studying abroad. Pros: it enhances language skills through immersion. Great vocabulary there. Immersion is definitely a word you want to talk about. It's definitely a word you want to use if you're writing about languages and studying abroad. Exposes students to different teaching methods. Offers a global perspective on one's field of study. Another useful sentence there. Encourages exploration of new environments and experiences. Develops valuable life skills such as adaptability and problem solving. These are all great. Here's my take. Here's my advice on this. These are all fantastic. In the new course that we're launching soon, we're going to have a module, and it's going to give you lots of vocabulary for taking a certain point of view. And the certain point of view will be around economic growth and job security, for example. And the argument is, like, we can, if we take the economic pros, for example, of an argument, it's quite adaptable. We can use it for an essay about crime, the economic, let's see. So if we take the economic argument point of view for crime, jailing is more expensive, or crime should be punished stricter with fines that people have to pay. So what I'm saying is that we can take this point of view, and by taking the same point of view for the majority of our arguments, we're going to be using the same vocabulary, which narrows down the amount of vocabulary, grammar and structures we need to master in order to get a band 7. Do you understand? The reason why we do economic arguments is because it's quite versatile. We've got a point of view, and with a little bit of creativity, we can adapt it to lots of different arguments. So the cons. What are the cons of studying abroad from an economic point of view? Obviously, it costs a lot more. The risks, it may be in currency exchange. 2, it could be a risk if you're taking out a loan. Maybe you break your leg during your studies and you can't continue, but you've still got this debt. Just a hypothetical example there. So there we go. Anyway, let's get back to it. Enhances employment prospects in a global market. Great. Another pro: develops valuable life skills. We've said that one. Creates opportunities for making international friends and networking. Yeah, don't like that one because it's a bit weak and it doesn't offer you that much space to develop it. And that's another point as well. When you're choosing your ideas, you want to go for one that's easy to grasp, it's not overly complex, and that has the margin, has the room to be developed. And that's why I like these cost arguments. Cons. What are the disadvantages of studying abroad? Potential language barriers may inhibit learning. Fantastic sentence. Potential. We've got the hedging in there. Language barrier. We've got the collocation. Inhibit. Beautiful. Beautiful verb there that we definitely want to take a note of for our essay. Another con: the quality of education may not match expectations. This happened to me. I signed up to learn Spanish in a Spanish academy, and I had a Brazilian guy, two English ladies, an American guy, an Austrian, and I was like, fair enough, obviously I'm not going to find Spaniards in the Spanish class. But the problem was that we always just went back to English, and being English also, and then with an American there, it's quite difficult for us to go into Spanish when we're both native English speakers, even though the only reason we're there is to learn Spanish. So I totally understand that one. Time away may cause disconnection from home country development. That's a good idea. That's a good con, because we can easily develop it. You get the idea instantly, and we can make an example easily. We can develop it quite straightforward. Next one, may face discrimination or xenophobia in host country. Fair enough. Loss of familiar support systems. Difficulty adjusting back to home culture upon return. Yes. When I went back to England, I was late everywhere from my time in Spain. Just joking. But what I did do actually, which I thought was quite interesting, was I remember so vividly, I jumped off the plane, I was quite excited, and I needed to go to the bank to get some cash. And I went in there, and I hadn't spoken to anybody yet since arriving in England. It's just straight through passport control. And I was still in Spanish mode, I was happy. It was quite conversational. Wasn't the usual introvert, but I went there and I was, quite joyful, and I went to the bank and I was like, "Hey there, can I withdraw some cash?" And she was like, her head shot back a good 10 centimeters. She looked at me and then she just waved with her hands down, like, "Hey, don't have to shout here, And I was like, "Oh yeah," because in Spain everything's louder. Everybody's outdoors, so it's more. You have to talk louder, and if everybody's talking louder in a room, you need to talk even louder, and so on and so forth. However, difficulty adjusting back to home culture upon return. And the final one, I think probably my favorite, as I've been explaining, may face financial hardships due to high costs. I think anyone who's been a student can probably connect with that argument quite well. Topic-specific vocabulary, collocations, and phrases. Let's jump into it. Cultural exchange, global perspective, immersion learning, international friends, language skills, life-changing experience. I like that one. Life-changing experience. It's one of those that can just roll off your tongue. You can use it for a lot of different arguments, especially maybe in the speaking. Next one, personal growth, academic opportunities, teaching methods, qualification, recognition. Some of these now I will share with you in their natural environment. What does that mean? Well, learning a list is better than doing nothing, but learning a list and then hearing and using those words in context. That's where we get the improvement. You've got to find out how and when these words can be used. I cannot begin to tell you how many essays I've seen where a student has just stuffed so many new vocabulary terms in there. They think their essay sounds amazing, but it's all like mismatches, and it's all like it's not the most natural sounding essay. So that's why you've got to learn new vocabulary in context. Model sentences. Only by participating in a cultural exchange does one truly appreciate the diversity of the world. Ooh, beautiful. Never before has gaining a global perspective been so important for future career prospects. Model IELTS essay sentence. Seldom can you achieve true immersion learning without studying abroad. Fantastic sentence. I love that we've got the word seldom in there. It's not the most common word. I think it's maybe the first time I've ever used that word in one of our podcasts. So definitely useful. Hardly anywhere else can you make as many international friends as when you study abroad. Only when living in a foreign country do your language skills truly flourish. Beautiful. Not until you study abroad do you understand the term life-changing experience. Not bad. Seldom do students appreciate the diversity of teaching methods until they study abroad. Now, I like this one, but I don't think I would use it in an essay. Why? Because being a tutor myself and knowing lots of teaching methods, I would most likely end up writing an essay about teaching methods rather than the pros and cons of about studying abroad. And on the one hand, using your subject matter would be useful, but you've got to be careful you do not go into engineer mode or teacher mode in my case. So if you do get the opportunity to write about something on your topic, I think take it, but just be careful. You can bring a lot of subject matter knowledge and vocabulary to the table, to your essay, but just make sure you do not get distracted by the subject and you keep your eye on the question. You're going to score full points for task response if you answer the question rather than showing your knowledge of the subject. I'm going to skip the model essay about studying abroad, but you will be able to get the whole tutorial in a Topics Idea ebook we will be releasing soon, and you'll get that for free. As soon as we finish it, we're going to mail it out to all the students on our emailing list, so sign up for that. And if you sign up later, you'll get it as soon as you sign up. So the reason I'm not including it now is because I don't think there's that much value for me, to talk through an essay. However, model speaking answers, obviously, you're going to get some value. Let's go. Why do people choose to study abroad? Well, to be honest, people choose to study abroad for a variety of reasons. A key factor is often the chance for immersion learning to improve their language skills. Also, studying abroad offers the opportunity to gain a broader global perspective. There we go. Straight to the point. We answered the question. If there's still some space there, if the examiner's still looking at you, you can extend it. For example, it's very common in China for students to want to study in the United States and the UK. In fact, I think the UK was the most popular place for students of my major, for students in the field I study. That's fine. Question 2. Should governments encourage more students to study abroad? Remember what I say about this. When we've got a question that starts with should, it's an opportunity for you to show some language skills, so show some character and get enthusiastic in there, and most importantly, show them you've got the gift of intonation. So should governments encourage more students to study abroad? Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. It's a great idea for governments to encourage students to study abroad. Now we develop it. But we've got to jump in there with 2 feet. The examiner has probably heard 30 students already before you enter the room. Some of them might be intelligent and might have listened to IELTS podcast, and they would have answered that question with a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of colour, okay? And maybe some of them do listen to IELTS podcast but forgot. So what I'm saying is, look at it from the examiner's point of view. Student after student, more or less similar questions every single time, probably similar answers. A lot of the students are focusing on the accuracy or the fluency, overcoming their nerves. However, an IELTS podcast student, hopefully focusing on those as well. And I know it's difficult. You've got a lot going on. You've got to formulate your answer. You've got to focus on all these other aspects. However, if you do hear the word should, please, for me, for my sake, for Ben, just jump in with 2 feet. All you need to say is absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great idea. Oh, definitely not. Add some colour. Add some intonation. Next question. How can studying abroad contribute to personal growth? Studying abroad can significantly contribute to personal growth in several ways. I like this answer. First, dealing with the challenges of living in a new country can help students become more independent and resilient. They also often improve their problem-solving skills as they navigate everything from language barriers to unfamiliar public transport systems. Also, it's a life-changing experience that can expand their horizons and alter their worldview. Life-changing experience, one of the phrases I mentioned before. Alter the world view, another useful phrase for IELTS speaking. We're running out of time. I'm going to wrap it up. If you want the full tutorial, as I said, go to IELTS Podcast, sign up. You will get an invitation for our AI essay checking tool, whereby you can submit your essay. You need this if you need to pass fast. You need this because you're going to get the feedback. You're going to save money on human essay corrections. It's like $12. Submit as many essays as you want. Go for the premium one. Invest in your education. The premium one takes longer to give you your feedback. We're talking 40 seconds instead of 10. The reason is because it's checking more data points. It's giving you a more complete feedback, so you're not missing points, and also it's giving you a more accurate feedback, and in my experience it's that a little bit more generous with the points. So you spend $12, you get as many essays as you want to correct, and you also get some tutorials on how you can improve your essay writing using the AI essay checker. That's all available at IELTSPodcast.com. One last thing, if you enjoyed this tutorial, send it to your friends. Help them too. And we are here to help you get abroad. We want to see you in the UK. We want to see you in Canada and Australia. And yeah, just keep moving. I know it can be frustrating. I know it can be tough. But you're an IELTS student. This is one obstacle on your path to life-changing events. So keep moving, keep going forward. You will get there. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.